Dave from Dave's Willard Shopworks here, and we're continuing our episodes of the cheap 440 build. So on this episode, we are going to go over how to check your clearances. We're going to use Plastigage. There's other ways, but we might go over that. And to do it, you need a few tools. So I mean, you need your crankshaft, fresh from the machine shop, just been polished. Everything else is good. Engine block, the main saddle areas have been all cleaned out. We are using my old main bearings from the 7440 out of the Imperial. Same thing with the bolts. They weren't stretched like the ones from the 66 block looked. Now you ask why we're using the old bearings. Well, it's because I don't have my new ones yet. They're kind of tied up in shipping right now with things that are going on, so we're going to make the best of it. And so as you can see, yeah, there's little lines in them. You know, these are in great, amazing shape for being in an engine since 1970. Like, there it is. I believe that says 6 of 70. So June of 1970 these bearings were produced, and they were in the engine when I pulled them out. They're also standard. There's no markings on them for any form of undersizing. We need a ratchet socket, 3/4 in this case, an extension to make it easier. We need our torque wrench, one that you trust. So we're going over Plastigage basically. There's two types, well, basically two ways of checking an engine's clearances. So you can use a telescoping gauge and a micrometer. You would bolt your main cap in with your bearing shells, and then you would take 3 different readings to see it's round and to get a average of what your journal size is for the bearing inside diameter. And then you would take a micrometer and you would measure the outside of your crankshaft diameter. So then all you simply do is simple math. You subtract whatever you're left over with, that's your bearing clearance. Oil clearance, as it were. So we're doing that with Plastigage. Simple, quicker, easier way. As accurate? No. But for our purposes, yes, absolutely. Now when you do Plastigage block, you want to put the crank in, dry, like all the bearings dry, and then I put a little dab of oil on every journal, and from there I will lay the piece of Plastigage in place, do the full torque down of your main bearings, and you're not setting your crankshaft end play at this point in time, because if you do that, you're just gonna disturb your Plastigage and get an accurate reading. But then simply, once they're all torqued down, I use 3 steps, 50, 65, and 85 foot-pounds to finish. Then you just pull your main caps back off and check your measurements. So, without further ado, you saw me tear these pieces off and keep them? Well, this is why. On each piece there are numbers, and that's in millimeters, and this is in thousandths of an inch. 1, 1.5, 2, and 3 thousandths. So we're looking for about 1.5 thousandths. That's what our clearance is. So we take our number 5 here, and all you do is you take your Plastigage and you run that gauge right against there. Look at that. We're near perfect on 1.5 thou. Okay, we're happy with that one. Now this one looks a little wider. The wider it is, the more crush it is seen, essentially. So this one, we are at, I would have to say, just shy of 1 thou. So like 1 3/4 of a thou, basically. Yeah, 1 thou. We're good. This guy right here, not quite 1 thou, but bigger than 1.5 thou, so 1 thou and 3/4. We're happy. And this guy, we're at 1 thou. She's tight. Nice. And then this guy, we're gonna go in the middle. We're just less than 1.5 thou, like 1 thou and 3/4, or 1 thou and 1/4, and that's splitting hairs. And that's it in a nutshell. We have just Plastigage crankshaft. Stay tuned for putting in the crank when I get the new bearings. That was with old bearings too. Those bearings are from 1970. They came out of the old 71 Imperial engine, the 440 that I pulled out of that boneyard. So that's pretty dang good. They stood up pretty well. I was blown away when I pulled them out. I mean, we're not using them, but if a fella needed to in a pinch, he sure could. With clearances like that, I wouldn't be afraid to at all. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much.